We are live.
It started with a DUI crash investigation, and the woman was brought to the police department. Throughout their interaction with this woman, the video that we're seeing for the first time appears to show the woman go back and forth with officers, but then it took a turn. Take a look. This is the moment a DUI crash investigation by Ormond Beach Police turned into an investigation into one of their own. New video shows the moments former Ormond Beach Police Officer Jacob Cannon threw a woman down, causing her to slam into the chair and a wall before she hit the floor. He's since been charged with felony battery and resigned from the police department. An arrest affidavit details Cannon initially tried to give police and fire EMS a different story.
Hello, critical thinkers. Hope all is well. Welcome to tonight's live stream. What you saw just opening up the stream was the news footage of the sentencing hearing that we're covering tonight. Jacob Ryan Cannon was involved in an incident, an attack on a DUI arrestee on December 6, 2024. So for those of you who don't know the story, I'm just going to go back slightly to give everyone the heads up. December 6, 2024, Shanna McRee was involved in a collision, suspected of DUI. There was property damage, and she was arrested, brought to the Ormond Beach Police Station, going through a series of testing. And there you saw the footage of Jacob Cannon losing his temper, and he grabbed her by the shoulders, thrust her to the ground. She sustained an injury to the forehead, and there you go. The thing I will say is that because this actually came up in the sentencing hearing last week on Friday, because basically this is part two of Jacob's sentencing hearing. In part one that occurred on Friday, I believe that was July 25th, the defense attorney stated how there were extenuating circumstances and how Shanna McRee was belligerent. She was heavily intoxicated, and that was the truth. She was intoxicated. After the assault occurred on Shanna McRee, basically the officer in question here lied. He falsified a police report and stated that Shanna McRee had fallen down, and that's how she sustained the injury. And it wasn't until investigators showed him the footage that he changed his story. Last week, his defense attorney in court basically stated, well, that was his recollection of the events, but once he saw the video footage, he changed his story and wanted to apologize to Shanna McRee. So the level of bullshit is high. Basically, he got caught. Maybe he forgot that there were cameras in the facility, and there was one camera directly behind him, and there was one camera directly in front of him, which captured a different vantage point. So what I want to do today is go over, and I'm not going to pull the cat out the bag, so to speak, that quickly. I'm going to go over some footage with you, a portion of his sentencing hearing, and then you'll hear directly what he received as a sentence. But before we do that, two quick things. If everyone can please like the stream, share it, comment below, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It greatly helps with the algorithm. Okay? One thing I'm going to do is go over a couple of concepts that you will hear. Okay. One thing that you will hear in today's sentencing hearing, there's a couple of concepts there that I like to go over with you because it's going to give you the proper context in terms of what exactly is occurring. So I'm going to pull up a little document that I've have for us to look at so that we can properly be educated on some of these legal terms that are going to come up. Okay. So in reference to today's sentencing, you will hear terminology making reference to injury classification and injury points. So in Florida, moderate injury as related to sentencing points for crimes involving victim injury is a specific term. It's worth 18 points on a criminal score sheet, which can significantly increase the potential sentence. This is distinct from slight or severe injury, each carrying different point values. So, all based on Shanna McRee's injury. Basically, last week, Jacob Cannon's defense attorney was attempting to have her injury classified as slight injury as opposed to moderate injury. So there was some back and forth in reference to how the injury should be classified. And the prosecutor wanted it to be listed as a moderate injury. There was some previous court cases cited. The judge had to take a look at that, and that's why there wasn't a determination on Friday. Another legal term that you'll be hearing today is something called downward departure. Downward departure. A downward departure sentence allows a judge to impose a sentence that is less than what the Florida law requires in some circumstances. There are no automatic criteria that guarantee you a downward departure. Instead, you must convince a judge that you deserve a lighter sentence. So here are the mitigating circumstances that include, but are not limited to. And I've highlighted these three examples here because these three examples is what you will hear in today's sentencing. One, the victim initiated, willingly participated in, or provoked the incident that led to the criminal charges against you. One thing that was very insulting for me was last week the defense attorney tried to insinuate that the attack, the throwing Shanna McRee on the floor, was instigated by the victim. He tried to do, in my opinion, was a level of victim blaming. The prosecution, argued otherwise. The second mitigating circumstance, the crime was isolated. The crime was an isolated incident conducted in an unsophisticated way, and you have shown remorse. So, mind you, the term that you'll hear during the sentencing is unsophisticated. So, just put that in the back of your memory bank. And then the third mitigating circumstance, and again, this is just three examples that pertain to this case, but there are many other mitigating circumstances. The third is you require specialized treatment for a mental disorder unrelated to substance abuse or addiction, or for a physical disability, and you are willing to get treatment. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of arguing in reference to Jacob Cannon's mental condition, his mental condition. Okay. So my whole argument is that if this is a gentleman that has PTSD, he's an officer that not only has PTSD, he has other psychiatric disorders. Why is he a police officer? What kind of screening process is being undergone by the Ormond Beach Police Department? Because they seem to want to have his defense attorney wanted to discuss his mental state, his medications, and that came out. So I have questions in reference to the screening process, and hopefully that can change. So I'm going to go ahead and play for you the actual sentencing today. I took a portion of the sentencing. This footage is courtesy of Volusia Exposed. That's the name of the YouTube channel. They cover news in Volusia County, and that's where this criminal proceeding is occurring. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the chat. So let's go ahead and pull this up, this footage from today's proceeding.
Mr. Cannon, would you?
Oh, and by the way, if you haven't done so already, please like the video, comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're from upstate New York, if you're in Florida, if you're actually in Ormond Beach, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know how you feel about this case, and if you feel this case, excuse me, and if you feel that what occurred here represents the Ormond Beach Police Department.
Would you please stand up with your attorneys? So I do agree with the defense that permanent disfigurement doesn't always necessarily mean moderate injury. I don't find the Lynn case or the citing of the Lynn case by the state to be disingenuous. I think it is helpful. And in that case, the court pointed out that scarring, along with the potential HIV issue in that case, was enough for moderate injury points. And I do think moderate injury points are appropriate in this case here. And I think that that's within my sound discretion to decide. And the reason for that, the reason I'm making that decision is Ms. McRee has a 1.5 to 2 inch scar right across the center of her forehead. She had 7 stitches for that. And then I think we're 7 months after the injury when she sat here next to me, just a few feet away from me. It's glaringly obvious, and that's something she's going to have to live with unless she gets plastic surgery to get rid of it, but it's red.
Just by the way, a quick pause. If you saw last week's footage, you saw that I played, and actually in my last video, she testified. I played a portion of that. On the video, you can't really see her scarring on her forehead, obviously, but the judge was able to see that. And therefore, because of that scarring and the impact it's going to have on her, she may need to get plastic surgery to better the appearance. This was held against the defendant in terms of the injury points and having this be listed as moderate.
It's raised a bit, and it's readily available to anybody who looks at her, readily visible. So I am scoring the moderate injury points. That unfortunately means that the defendant scores 19.1 months DOC unless I find grounds to downward depart. Obviously, this is a tough case. And let's talk about the grounds for downward departure.
So here we hear that terminology that I mentioned before, downward departure. This is the defense attempt to get the sentence minimized or even for leniency. So just keep reference to that, to what we discussed previously in terms of downward departure.
I saw Mr. Lambert nodding his head when I was saying that I thought one of the grounds was that the victim, Ms. McRee, was somehow an initiator or provoker of the injuries that were caused to her by the defendant. And I've watched all of the videos. Ms. McRee was highly intoxicated. She was verbally abusive. But that's your job in law enforcement, to deal with all sorts of people, including people that are hostile, verbally abusive, and highly intoxicated.
Hear what this judge just said to the defendant. This is your job, to deal with people that are highly intoxicated, that are belligerent, that are hostile. It's not licensed to assault them, and it's not, in her eyes, a provocation.
She was, in fact, screaming and combative at the hospital and had to be given medication and restrained, as your attorney argued. That was after the injury, though, after she had lost a significant amount of blood and had this huge gash across her forehead. I don't find that there's grounds to downward depart. I don't think that has been proven, and I don't think it would be appropriate even if it had been proven. Unlike the state, I don't think that this was committed in an unsophisticated manner. I do think it was an isolated incident and the defendant's shown remorse for it, But the reason I'm finding that it wasn't committed in an unsophisticated manner was because after the victim was injured, she was placed in a holding cell, I think ignored as best I could tell. Nobody attempted to tend to her or give her any kind of aid. And then there were lies to the supervisor about how it occurred. So I don't find that that was committed in an unsophisticated manner.
Take a look at what the judge just said. This is something that's not really covered in the media. The after effect of the assault, she was placed in a holding cell and she was ignored. Placed in a holding cell and she was ignored. Just let that marinate with you in terms of the treatment that this woman faced while in police custody.
I do agree with the state, though. The defense has proven that the defendant suffers from a mental illness that's unrelated to substance abuse or addiction, and the defendant is amenable to treatment. One of the mental health providers, I think, saw the defendant, it looked like only one.
If this gentleman suffers from mental, illness of any kind, or like, why is he a police officer? What kind of screening process is occurring in the Ormond Beach Police Department or the Volusia County in terms of screening? Aren't there any mental health assessments occurring? And can't you weed out these individuals that have a propensity for unwarranted violence?
Time and diagnosed him with PTSD based solely on his 7 years in law enforcement. I'm disregarding that opinion. I think that opinion it is not specific to the defendant. The other treatment was more ongoing. It started in January and continued through June. There was a diagnosis of intermittent explosive disorder, and I find that is appropriate under the circumstances.
You find that it's very appropriate under the circumstances as well. Intermittent explosive disorder. I've heard of intermittent fasting. I've never heard of intermittent explosive disorder.
I do find that you suffer from mental illness that's unrelated to substance abuse, that you are amenable to treatment. I am going to consider, in addition, your lack of any criminal history whatsoever in the 7 years of public service that you've done through your job. And I want to be very clear, I am not downward departing because you are a police officer. I am downward departing because you have no criminal history, and I'm trying to treat you the same as I would anybody else under similar circumstances in a similar situation. So I am going to.
Okay, so here is where we get to the finale of the sentencing. And I'm going to let this play out so you hear the entire sentencing and the conditions. And do me a favor. The moment you hear the full sentencing, let me know in the chat whether you think this is appropriate or not. If you believe the sentencing was good enough for you, write yes. If you believe that the sentencing sucks, write no.
Adjudicate you guilty. The reason for that is, as a convicted felon, you will not be able to own a gun, buy a gun, possess a gun, and that's important to my sentence. I'm going to sentence you to 6 months county jail. Madam Clerk, how much credit does he have? 11 days. Okay, you have 11 days credit. That's going to be followed by 2 years of probation, during which time you need to undergo a mental health evaluation and any recommended treatment. You will be required to surrender your law enforcement certification to the state of Florida, but I believe you've already done that, sir. And then I am going to order restitution to the victim, Ms. McRee. I'm going to reserve for 60 days to determine that amount. And so if it wasn't already done, Madam Clerk, I'm going to revoke his bond today. And then the court costs are $770 plus 100 costs of prosecution, 100 costs of investigation, and that'll be a condition of your probation as well. Like I do with everybody else, I'm going to waive your cost of supervision for 1 of the 2 years of probation. And that's to encourage you to try to complete the terms of the probation and terminate early at that halfway point. Your attorney knows that you can file a notice of appeal within 30 days of signing the judgment and sentence. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that any of the items that were submitted and taken into evidence are public record currently, and defense may want to consider whether to seal the medical records. Okay. Anything else the court needs to address today?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
There you have it, people. For a law enforcement officer assaulting a woman, a handcuffed woman, thrown by her shoulders, thrown down to the floor, uh, gash in her forehead, 7 stitches, permanent disfigurement. This law enforcement officer gets 6 months, 2 years probation, and has to pay restitution. The district attorney was recommending 19 months. 19 months. And this defendant got 1/3 of what the district attorney was recommending in terms of prison jail time. So you let me know what you think. Do you think this was justified? Because in my opinion, I live in Florida. Florida is a uh, it's a law and order state, right? I know for a fact if that was me, if I committed a similar crime to that, which I would not, but if I did, they would not give me 6 months in jail. I would be doing state prison time. I might have received the maximum and have been doing 5 years. He could have faced 5 years in prison. The district attorney recommended 19 months, and he got 6 months in jail. Tell me what you think about this. I mean, honestly, I'm very disappointed. I thought he was going to get more time. Obviously, some jail time is better than nothing at all, right? But 6 months is not adequate for me. So I posted the link in the to chat if you want to come on and have a conversation with me about this. The only thing I will say is that you have to share your camera, share your mic, click on Enter Studio, no loud music in the back. If you want to give me your 2 cents on how you feel about the sentencing, I would love to have you come on and show me and talk to me, right? But I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm very, very disappointed with what occurred. I'm disappointed with the sentencing, and I actually want to play that one more time. I want to play the footage of what occurred.
Started with a DUI crash investigation, and the woman was brought to the police department. Throughout their interaction with this woman, the video that we're seeing for the first time appears to show the woman go back and forth with officers, but then it took a turn. Take a look. This is the moment a DUI crash investigation by Ormond Beach Police turned into an investigation into one of their own. New video shows the moments former Ormond Beach Police Officer Jacob Cannon threw a woman down, causing her to slam into the chair and a wall before she hit the floor. He's since been charged with felony battery and resigned from the police department. An arrest affidavit details Cannon initially tried to give police and fire EMS a different.
And then to add insult to injury, he lied about it. He lied. He falsified a police report. He stated she fell down. So, why he did not get charged with, filing a false instrument, I do not know. So if you're just joining us, please like the stream, share it, comment below. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel so I can continue giving you content like this. So everyone, 6 months, 2 years probation, and restitution to be determined at a later time. So I'm obviously very disappointed. I'm upset with this sentencing. I think he got off. He made off like a bandit. I don't care that he can't be a law enforcement officer in Florida anymore. He won't be able to carry a firearm. He'll be listed as a felon. I really don't care about that. He should have done. He should have done 19 months at least, minimum. He should have done what the prosecution recommended, because he could have done 5 years in prison. He could have done 5 years. So with that being said, I'm gonna go chill out and relax. That's all I have for today. This is the sentencing. As I say, My goal is to go deeper than what the mainstream media is telling and sharing with you. Take care. God bless, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.